Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Steve Wyss's Betting Zoo. We have been off on vacation for the last 2 or 3 weeks. The zoo's been closed, but it's back open now, and the latest guest is no other than Lewis Jones. I'm delighted to welcome you to the Betting Zoo series, Lewis. How are things going with you today?
Yes, very good, Steve. Very good to be here. Part of your ever branching out series, isn't it? Gathering a nice bit of momentum. I watched the one with James, and it was very, very insightful, I thought, and opened my brain to all the questions that you asked him. And I was hoping to be asked. I was there by my phone waiting for the text, and finally it came. So, yeah, happy to be here. And I've actually found the whole process of this actually very cathartic, Steve. I've got to say. I mean, just asking myself how we got into sort of sports betting and why we do it, and just thinking about what we're good at and maybe what we're not good at. It's opened my brain up a little bit, and it was quite So I enjoyed the process of thinking about all these questions you're going to be firing at me today, yesterday. I'd actually recommend it to anyone who bets sort of seriously, asking yourself these questions and sort of writing some notes down about it, because it has got the brain going. Maybe you could be a bit of a betting therapist, Steve. Maybe this is the future. You could be there's known as the betting therapist, because I found the whole process very enthralling. I'm looking forward to getting stuck in here.
You got some interesting ideas into my head there, that's for sure. But you're absolutely right. This is the series where we delve deep. We look into sort of betting advice from our handicappers. We're getting to find out more about the handicappers as well. So later on, we're going to maybe find some stuff out about Lewis that a lot of you would have no idea about. But you're absolutely right. The start there. Where did it all start for Lewis Jones in terms of love for sports and football, soccer in particular? So I suppose you got to go maybe a bit of a long way back, but where was the starting block for you?
Well, it comes from my family, Steve, really. A sports mad family. Dad was a PE teacher. My mum was a PE teacher. That's how they met across the staff room all those years ago in Basildon in Essex. So there was just both of them had a love for sports, and I had really no choice really of getting into sports. It was always on in the background. Always my dad showing huge passion for watching the Welsh rugby team, which always sort of left a mark on me. And I thought, God, he cares a lot about that. What's so exciting about all this when I was sort of growing up? And even though he wanted me to get into rugby really, but it was always I was always a bit of a wimp, to be honest, Steve, about getting into something so physical. So I sort of disappointed him there and went down the football route. Just a standard story, really. Just played throughout my youth. Basically, it was just my life, really. Everything revolved around playing football, and every moment we got, we'd always be out training or playing or kicking the ball around. I mean, it was just my life. But I was never really that good at it, to be honest, Steve. I never really. Actually, no, I'll take that back. I was an okay player, but I always just had an eye for the spectacular. I was too ego-driven to be part of a team situation, so I always just wanted to grab the headlines myself and entertain, really, and be too creative, I think. So it was always the dressing room environment and the sort of the banter side of it and spending time with my mates, which really sort of kept me going within the game. Because even then, I was always more interested in sort of analysing football than playing it, and always sort of loved writing and being sort of quite creative. And I suppose when other people were training properly and doing keepy uppies and working on tactical shape, I was writing match reports and just being a little nerd, really, when it came to sort of analysing even our own games at that sort of low level. So I was quite a sad kid, really. So that's how my sort of love for football started.
Yeah, I was kind of the same, really. There was always sport on TV in my house, my dad especially, and it was tennis, golf in particular, obviously quite a bit of football as well. It's funny how it sort of sticks with you right from your youth, really. Now, of course, me and you have worked together on Betting Weekly Live, and we sometimes talk about your role at Sky over here in the UK. So I think this is maybe a good chance to sort of tell the viewers and the listeners about what your role is there exactly at Sky. So tell us what you can about what you kind of do on a day-to-day basis.
Yes, I've worked for Sky Sports now for about sort of 10 years, and part of the team in their digital department within sort of Sky Sports News, who my official term is digital football journalist. And I'm suppose I'm part of a team that produces mostly Premier League content across the very popular website and app work quite closely with Sky Sports News, and we have to be aligned with the reporting side of that. And it's a very, very great place to work in terms of seeing behind the curtain, I suppose, of how it all works from a news perspective. Something which I've never really dabbled in myself or had too much engagement with from a personal perspective, but it's a really great environment to work in. And I suppose my role has developed over the last 5 years or so, where I'm now part of our team that sort of has taken the lead on the production of sort of betting and prediction content. And people may have read my Jones Knows based content on Sky, which is sort of the Premier League predictions column with a big betting sort of edge to it. And I took that column over from Paul Merson about sort of 4 years ago, giving it a little bit of a different look, more sort of stats heavy and more data analyst analysing it, really, just to try and maybe educate the readers a little bit more than traditionally what that piece was, just about how to find angles in the market and what people should be looking for when sort of trying to beat the bookmakers. And I suppose getting that opportunity actually to take that prediction piece on, because it is a very popular piece of content, is sort of changed quite a lot for me, really, in terms of exposure and having a bigger platform to. Because I've always been involved in betting and interested in that side and punted away myself for at least sort of the last 15 years. So from a content perspective, that gave me a bigger platform to sort of showcase what I can do, really. And there's another half of my job, really, which is more the sort of the traditional journalism work, covering games in the Premier League through sort of live blogs and match reports across the Sky Sports app and the website. And I still get a great buzz from that. I mean, having millions of people following your words about a story of a game, being at the heart of it, especially at a sort of a big dramatic moment, a late goal or a big incident, which is just going to blow up in terms of from a news perspective. That's a real sort of adrenaline kick that I still get, and I still love doing that side of the job as well. And I suppose the job means I'm very sort of well placed to be across the Premier League action, and that sort of provides me with my edge, I would say, in itself when it comes to betting. And obviously I've been lucky enough to be able to moonlight with guys like you on this show, Betting Weekly Live, and doing a few podcasts, and run my own private tipping service now, which is going quite well. So it's very, very busy, and with 2 kids to look after as well, I probably have taken on too much work to keep me going. So obviously punting alongside and trying to keep that going as well. So yeah, pretty slammed, Steve. But I suppose if you can call it a job, I'm not sure you can call it a job. I've probably never done a proper day's work in my life, but absolutely fully engaged with what I do still on a day-to-day basis, and I sort of just get quite a lot of stimulation from it. So sort of peeking you there behind the curtain there of what I get up to on a day-to-day basis at Sky.
Yeah, great bit of. I mean, that column, I must say, is a great read. I would encourage anyone to give that a read each week. And I think of all the. I mean, we often have you on sort of a Monday and a Friday on Betting Weekly Live. I mean, I would say you possibly, certainly in English leagues, might be probably the best person to have on a one-off game. Like you always cover every angle in a game. It's incredible. But now you've described where your background there, I can see why you're really well set up for this sort of thing. And we look on your X bio. One thing that always sticks out to me is that word "data is our friend." And I know you have brought a lot of metrics to the table from your betting style and things. I'm wondering now, are you a completely stats man in terms of betting? And there's so many stats out there, and I know you have access to a lot of stats that a lot of people don't have access to. But I'm wondering, what do you think when you're betting on soccer? What are the key stats out there? Are there stats that are a bit overrated as well? Possession or something? I don't know. I'm interested in your take on key soccer stats.
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually, because I suppose there was a time where you could just build a betting model based on sort of raw stats and run it against a few markets and sort of sit back quite smugly and just look at how nice your return on investment was. I think the market was just maybe sort of 3-4 years ago very beatable in terms of markets that I played in, especially the props markets, where you could just run numbers and you would find edges quite easily. But I do think the markets are obviously more data-led these days. They're getting a lot smarter, aren't they? More efficient. That value we used to find on a weekly basis is now gobbled up and doesn't last very long at all. So I think we've all had to evolve a little bit more over the past few years to maybe trust the eye test a little bit more. It's definitely making more of a comeback when you're trying to spot angles, I think. I mean, we don't all need to go full Mystic Meg, I don't think, and just trust the eyes maybe like we do. But everything has a place and all adds into the pot in terms of data and eye test. And I suppose what I'm doing, and this is one thing that I sort of was when you asked me this question, the one thing I realised I've been doing a lot more lately is actually relearning the value of intuition. And that's something which I certainly used in the early days of my betting, albeit not probably very successfully, but where you could sort of watch a game and just trust what you see, whether that's the sort of striker that's coming into form or the left back maybe that is caught out of position too many times, or an aging player who is losing his legs and people maybe haven't noticed that yet. And it sort of led me to come to the conclusion that the data often can tell you what is happening, but it rarely tells you why. And I think that's where the edge actually now lives, in terms of what I do. In terms of the data is the sort of the starting point, and then the eye test comes in to try and work out whether there is an actual edge there of why that's happening. I think that word "why" is very, very crucial when you're looking to find genuine angles in the market, because the data can only tell you a certain amount of what's going on, and I think you just have to add your eye test to it to sort of put the cherry on top to make that a bet. So it's definitely, I'm not just a data-led sole punter, so to speak, an analyst. It's everything has to go into the mix. But I do think maybe is it to do with my experience and the older I get, or maybe just the way the markets are going now. But I do think the sort of the eye test is providing more of an opportunity to find prices which are too big.
Yeah, do you know what? It's interesting. I used to work for someone on a stats site, and you always used to say to me, great stats are no use unless there's a good reason why. And that, I think that always stuck with me in my head, and what you just said there kind of reminded me of it. And I mean, you mentioned
just to cut. Sorry, Steve. Just to cut in there. I've got a really good example of that. How that can really affect your betting. Actually, sort of any sort of zingy stat in isolation that sort of creates noise and gains attention can actually put you off a bet, and that's something which I've been sort of guilty of over the years. Is the fact you've done all the research and you've got everything's gone into the pot to think, well, this is a bet which is far too big in the market. But then you'll read a stat, something like, I don't know, Leeds haven't won at that certain ground for like 165 years or something, and then for some reason that, even though head-to-head data is completely irrelevant because obviously it stretches back to players and managers that aren't involved, it can still affect your thinking. And I think it's just, you've got to try and cancel out that noise sometimes, I think, and take those stats in isolation, that sort of the ones that sort of float around on social media or get dropped into commentary. They're just cherry picked to create a bit of noise and to gain traction rather than actually inform. And that's where I think you've got to be very careful about what stats and the context of stats that you're using when you're throwing it into the mix. So I totally agree with you there on how you've got to cherry pick the right type of data and information to put into your decision making process.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree 100% there. And I mean, we're just going to move on to player props now in soccer. I mean, I wish I could have a whole episode with you about player props. Maybe there needs to be a part 2 with some of the handicappers that I'm doing with. But briefly, I mean, you mentioned there you're often, feet on the ground as such at a lot of these Premier League grounds. You're taking in a lot of the action. And I know you bet on a lot of player props. And I'm wondering how much of a balance between the actual stats and your eye test that you are doing when you're betting on player props. And a bit of advice maybe for bettors out there. Do you think if you're going to bet on props, you need to sort of specialise in 2 or 3 ones rather than looking across about 9 or 10? What are the best player props markets to bet on out there now, do you think?
Well, the best prop market still remains the shots market for me. And just in terms of my record, also dabble in fouls committed and fouls won markets where some bookmakers offer it. I think matchups there aren't really factored into the prices, so the prices are more or less centered on the player in question's foul committed or fouls won numbers. But then when you flip it, it's the guy that they're up against is actually just as important for a matchup, and that's where you can find brilliant edges in the market. But in terms of like my starting point for props betting is obviously the data. The data has to be the starting point for me for like or an entry point for a bet. I think there's something that can sort of be clearly showcased by the numbers. To say if a player has had like 5 shots in his last 6 games and his averages had rocketed from like 0.3 per 90 to like, I don't know, 1.7 or something. So that sort of has to then triggers the cogs in my brain to start working. Why is this happening? what has happened to what is the context behind this. It can't just see the numbers and go, right, that's a bet straight away, because you need to put some context on that. So then my job is to find out the answer and just to see whether that becomes the reasoning behind that change in the data. It becomes a bet of the prices, and that's using my, say, experience, knowledge of football, and just to see if we can find the reason. And normally, if that reason is a positional or tactical tweak within that player's game, then you are an absolute goldmine there, a golden highway for finding value in the props markets. And that is the absolute key. And that is, you can use and that is where the eye test comes in, by having and watching the player and seeing if his positional area on the pitch has changed, if he's been given more license by the manager. And that, as I mentioned, it can be an absolute goldmine if you can add the why to the data. I just think then you're in line for really good returns on that specific player. But also, I think the best way to use the eye test sometimes is in attacking players, especially in the shots market, which I say a lot of success at over the years. And the word that I always ask myself is intent. So if you see a player that's playing with intent and is very positive in what he does, he looks like he's confident, and those are the players that I like to back in the sort of attacking props market, because that is something that the bookmakers can't factor into a price. They can't factor in confidence. They can't factor in that word intent. And because when a player starts to believe in himself, I think that's when the sort of the increased volume and output happens in his shots data, and that's another route to finding value in the market, I think. And there's a really good example, if I can just use it now, Steve, at the moment, a very relevant example at the moment is the Manchester United right flank at the moment, when both Brian Mbeumo and Ahmed Diallo both play together. They are showing signs of being a really fantastic combination that are being very direct and showing a lot of intent in their attacking approach. And that's, again, that keyword intent is the thing that I'm really looking forward to utilising here in that partnership between Mbeumo and Diallo, because the data will tell you at the moment their shots data are pretty consistent. Market is pricing them up as they should be in terms of their goal involvements. But I think we could be looking at a spike here soon for both Mbeumo and Diallo, just of how much carnage they're causing down that right-hand side and the chemistry. And it's that word intent that they're both playing with, and that is going to have a huge outcome, I think, an effect on their output in terms of shots on target, goal involvements over the next, well, if they stay fit over the next 2-3 months. So that's something, when I'm pricing up these markets now, that sort of like little individual opinion on a couple of players has to factor in how I price up those markets, and that will inevitably lead to an edge in the market, I think. So yeah, just a little tip for those people that may be watching as well. Keep an eye on Mbeumo and Diallo's goal involvements and shots on targets to really spike over the next 2 weeks, because they are showing that key word that I mentioned, their intent in their play.
I think that was some fascinating insight there, really was. And like we said, we have in this theme today of linking sort of stats as to why, in addition to the eye test, it's a real good balance that we've got to find there in terms of betting. You're watching Steve Wyss's Betting Zoo. Lewis Jones is alongside me today. Please do hit that subscribe button. Apparently 50% of people who are watching this series are not subscribed to the channel, so please do it. It's totally free. Anyway, the next section we're going to talk about is betting ladders, because we're getting a lot of these questions on the shows, on the comments on the YouTube recently, and I'm going to add a little bit of my input to it as well. This is the Betting Zoo. We're going to have some pet picks later, but I was going to call this episode Snakes and Ladders. Actually, I was going to get my snakes out on the video. Well, they're not my snakes. It's my daughter's got some snakes. To be honest, I don't really like them at all. I wouldn't have been doing the video. But they only get fed something like once every 3 weeks, so it's pretty hard to get them out. Anyway, betting ladders. Put it in the comments if you want to see my snakes on this show at some point. Betting ladders, they've really risen in popularity in recent years. I love ladders, and there's almost a bit of a glamorous side to them, like a show business side. They've become a thing. If someone hits a big ladder, it's glorious. But really, I think what I want to talk about, Lewis, is sort of the more betting management, in stake management of ladders, because what we're talking about here is, for example, if you're betting on a match over 2.5 goals, but you're thinking of going over 3.5, 4.5, even 5.5, even 6.5. I mean, what should the stake be on these ladders? I personally always say to people, as long as if you win the bottom rung of your ladder, the lowest part of it, make sure you're not going to lose anything overall. But everyone's different with their approach. You can be more aggressive, you could be more defensive, and make sure you're making profit even on the lower level. So betting ladders, I mean, for you're into these sometimes as well, I know that. What would your stake management be on these types of bets?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously you mentioned they're the Hollywood sort of bets, aren't there? And I think this is why bookmakers like offering them out, because they want people to think they can hit a really big winner on the ladders, and I think they like pushing them. But in terms of maximising the profit from when you think you've got a nice price on a certain selection and you're looking to ladder it, this probably isn't the best mathematical advice. But what I do is I work out what the profit would be on each of the higher ladders, and then when I'm happy with that return, that's how I sort of work out my stake management on that. And that, what I find that's a better way of doing that is because then you have more sensible amount on the higher legs, because you're not looking at your actual stake that you're putting on the returns that you could probably get, and that's adding in all the other ladders below winning that. And that's how it's a personal thing really, that's how I manage my the staking on the higher runs, because obviously the higher the ladder, the less likely it's going to come in, and the implied probability is going to drop. So I found myself in the past hitting a nice bet in terms of the lower ladders, but then not maximising the profit because I've had too much on the bigger ladders trying to chase the big win. So I always find when I'm looking at stake management, the sweet spot, and this is probably a thing I would say about my whole betting, is my sweet spot in terms of price is anything between sort of 2-1 and 4-1, 5-1. That area is where I have most success when I'm looking at my results for the season. So I would have a higher percentage stake on that area of the ladder, rather than trying to be too greedy and putting too much on the sort of 10-1 plus area. I just find that helps with your stake management, and you end up still making a nice profit if the big one lands, because you've told yourself you'll be happy with that overall figure if the bigger one comes in. But I seem to just put most of my stake percentage in that sort of 2-1 or plus 200 to plus 600 area of the market. That's just a personal thing, and everyone's got their own system. But I think the way that you've explained it there about making sure you don't lose money if the first line of the ladder comes in, that's probably a really smart way starting point, I think, for when you're trying to attack these types of bets.
Yeah, and in terms of the actual ladders, I think the final question is, are you looking to bet on these things when you're really, really confident about the outcome on a game, or is it the odds that would suck you in? I mean, I must say for me, I'm more likely to get involved with these ladders where I'm just feeling so strong about an outcome. If I'm really in love with an over, just to go miles over. Obviously, the odds have got to be acceptable as well, don't get me wrong. But for me, it would be more of a confidence thing rather than, wow, the odds are sucking me in here for ladder thing. But what about you? Because you're a bit more metric based.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I just think you have to be flexible and maybe trust your own instinct in that regard, because I think if you do find value at a ladder at the lower level, just naturally and organically, there's going to be value higher up that chain as well. So there always is a tendency to go and chase the bigger price. But as I say, the implied probability drops incredibly when you're attacking those higher lines. And I'd say probably about 85% of my betting is on prop markets. So the 10 to 15% is on sort of traditional markets like money lines and over under goals. So I don't really actually play many ladders on money lines or under over goals, but I can totally see why people do, and it's probably something I should do more of, really, because when you fancy a line on the money line, you should, if you really fancy a team strongly, there's nothing really stopping you having extra stakage on the Asian handicap lines, the sort of the +1, the +2 lines, to really land a nice winning selection. That's probably something which I should do more of, because I don't tend to ladder on outright markets, just because maybe my eyes aren't as, and my staking isn't as concentrated on that type of market. But I think it's a very interesting way of maximising a strong view. I think is taking the higher lines where possible. So yeah, I probably would actually. This is something that I was thinking about when I was thinking about these questions over the past couple of days. Is something that I probably need to add into my armory. Really, laddering in the outright markets, because it's not something which I actually do much of. I mostly do the laddering when it comes to the prop. So something which I'm going to certainly take from this conversation, Steve, is I'm going to be a bit more bullish and a bit more confident when I fancy an over-under line, or in the goals market, or just a team to win. If you think they're going to win, then why not take the bigger line on the Asian handicap? So yeah, no, that's yeah, something which I'm going to take from this conversation. So as I say, it's a little bit of therapy, this Steve, isn't it? Really, you're really sort of broadening my horizons to look at different styles of betting. So yeah, but laddering is a very important part of the modern day betting, I think. But you just got to be careful not to be too greedy, I think, when you get into playing the bigger prices, because it can have a knock on effect to your overall profit and loss.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say on this matter is, do not, whatever you do, come out of a match that you've actually called right. Your main sort of line and bet, you've called it spot on, but end up losing on the match because you've laddered too high, you've spent too much of your stake on those high ladders. Make sure you break it even, at least, I always say, on your sort of lowest rung of your ladder. That would be my personal bit of advice. And of course, you can go ladder the other way down to the cellar. We rarely ever talk about it. Might need to get Nigel Seeley on the show for this, but you can go, say, I don't know, really low. Like if there was a goal line at 3.5, you go down to the 0-0. Rarely would it happen. It's not as glamorous, but you can go the other way as well. Okay, well, to finish the show, we will just find out a little bit more about Lewis. You said there you've got a hectic lifestyle, you're doing all sorts of things. Do you actually bet on other sports these days, Lewis, or not?
Not to the of how seriously that I take my football punting. I say probably you have to have a professional approach in terms of when it comes to football betting, and obviously you've got to just put everything in your favour and trying to be the most professional you can. Even though I wouldn't class myself as a professional punter, probably a semi-professional punter really, because I've obviously got other streams of income. But not seriously, but horse racing is my other passion in terms of what I like betting on, Steve, when I can. And it's something which I did spend quite a lot of time the last sort of maybe before I had children. It was something which I did take quite seriously in trying to become sort of a winning horse racing punter. Because I learned a lot, actually. My first job in the industry was working for a startup betting exchange, and I was working under some pretty knowledgeable people there from a journalistic point of view on horse racing. And we did lots of sponsorship in the industry, and we had quite a lot of investment within greyhound racing as well, and I was quite a big part of that. Which greyhound racing as well is something which still exhilarates me when I watch it. I think it's a brilliant sport to bet on. It's obviously on tough times at the moment, but in terms of a thrill when you go to the track to watch a greyhound that you've got interest in, there's nothing really like it. So I did sort of working in that environment did trigger my sort of love for horse racing to a certain extent, and I learned so much, and I think I understand the game to like quite an expertise level now. But it's a very difficult sport to win long term at, I found, especially as like a one-man band when you have other things going on, because I was sort of balancing the football punting alongside. I think you need to have like a support network of other sharp punters, and maybe someone that's in the know from the stable. It's in the stable or the train. You need someone on the ground really, just to provide those really important nuggets of information. So I think if you have that, you can make money from it. But yeah, I was a little bit wet behind the ears, I think, when I was betting on it seriously. And the problem with me there, and I learned a lot, was I was always backing horses sort of 3-1 to 10-1 range, and with that you're gonna back a lot of losers in a row, and it's dealing with that sort of long losing run, which is very difficult to do, I think, as a gambler, as a punter. So that was something which I didn't really deal with very well in terms of staying true to the process. So it was just something that fizzled out eventually. I was spending too much time on it and not making enough returns, especially when I had children and things. So I just had to knock that on the head. But I absolutely love the game still. I love going racing when I can. I love nothing better than sitting down and studying a card in peace and quiet with my kids out of the house. It's just a real way of unwinding for me, and I think that's what it is really. This the whole love with the betting game is me and my sort of puzzle solving brain that I've got. I love that's the thrill of it for me. It's the actual finding of the angles, and then having the money on, and making the money on the side is the stressful part, I find. So, but this is the thing that I really love about sports betting is the sort of the search for gold in a way, and getting paid for being right. And I think we're all quite egotistical, really, and that's something which I definitely can account for over the years of being quite an egocentric sort of person, which is probably to my detriment at times. But I do love being right, Steve. So something which, I've always found really engaging and exciting about the betting world is you just get paid for being right, and there's no better feeling in life, I don't think.
Ah, you're absolutely right. The thrill of it is something else. What's your favourite racecourse? Quickly, you have to pick one to go to.
Oh, Sandown's the track that I go to when I can. On a summer's day there, the views from the grandstand and um, the view over the London in the background, and just some of the great sort of punts that we've managed to have really good days at Sandown over the years. So that sticks out. I do the Cheltenham Festival. Obviously, I've been to many Cheltenham festivals in my past, and the excitement on that Tuesday when the tapes go up in the Supreme is excellent. But I'd say Sandown Park for personal memories. Yeah.
Best in the North, York, without a question. Easily the best one in my area. Okay, favourite sports teams or players that you support? You need to tell us now. What is your team, Lewis? You always get asked this question about the handicappers. Will you reveal?
Well, it's a really interesting question, actually, Steve, because I would actually class myself not a football supporter of any team these days. I think if you are going to call yourself a fan or a supporter of a team, it doesn't mean you have to be invested somehow in that club, whether that's, I don't know, through time or attending games or emotionally invested. And I'm not really invested in that way in a football club anymore. So I don't really like to disrespect proper fans of a club by claiming that I am one these days, because I grew up being a QPR supporter, and that place has always got it's one of the reasons why I fell in love with football, going to Loftus Road and the promotion season under Ian Holloway in the when was it, 2004? That sort of era, I was absolutely obsessed with QPR and now in my life, and I was lucky enough to go and work as a journalist to cover their promotion season under Neil Warnock to the Premier League when Adel Taarabt was absolutely ripping it up, and that's one of my career highlights, really, being sort of behind being on the ground for that promotion season. But in terms of my love for the club now, they're always in my heart, but I wouldn't say I'm a supporter, and I'm not sure you can be a supporter of a football club, really, if you're looking to do what I do in the industry and be a sort of an unbiased analyst. I think it helps not having the emotional attachment to a team. What I probably would say, I'm just, if I am going to be a football supporter, Steve, it would be whatever team is carrying my money. So I think that's the best way that I look at it now. And even though QPR they've got a place in my heart, obviously, and I love going to watch football at Loftus Road still, I wouldn't want to disrespect football fans by saying I am a football fan, because if QPR win or lose at the end on the weekend, it doesn't matter to me, unless obviously I'll back them to win or lose. So that's where I am with it. It's quite a harsh, ruthless way of looking at it, but I think I take quite seriously the term football fan, maybe, and I just wouldn't class myself as one at the moment with QPR. That might change in the future when I change up my career and maybe wind down a little bit and I can go back to being a fan. But at the moment, no, I would just say I'm a supporter of whatever team is carrying my money, Steve.
Yeah, that's a great answer, actually. And, it's funny, when we bet on all these teams and players, we do become fans of them on the day. It's definitely a thing, that is. You feel yourself cheering on a side that you never thought you'd ever cheer on. It's funny how the sports betting world works.
Well, exactly. I've backed Ecuador for the World Cup this week, and I'm already googling Ecuador shirts. So I'm going to be an Ecuador fan in the summer. So this is how our brain works, doesn't it? In terms of whoever we're financially invested in, they become part of us in a way for that however long we're interested. So yeah, Ecuador are a team which looking forward to jumping on over the summer.
What would Lewis Jones's perfect holiday location be, apart from a weekend with me in Ibiza or something? Are you a beach man, mountains, cities, or something else?
Far too excited. I mean, a week in Ibiza with you, Steve, I'm not sure I'll be able to handle that these days. But perfect holiday location. So me and my wife got married in Greece, so we got some great memories of going there, and we spent some great time in Seville as well, a city that I love, and I would love to go and I say in a dream scenario, I wouldn't mind going to live there one day in Seville. I love that city. But I suppose the holidays are dried up a bit, Steve, to be honest, because since having kids, the thought of taking my 2 under 4s on a plane at the moment doesn't really appeal to me. So hopefully when they grow up a bit and we can start jetting off again, just go and explore Europe a bit more. And something which I haven't done much, actually, is going to Europe to watch football enough. European football is something which I've definitely become more interested in over the past maybe 4 or 5 years. And when I had the chance when I was younger to go and travel and watch games abroad, I never did. So that's something definitely on my sort of bucket list, to go to some of these great grounds in Europe and watch some football.
Yeah, I mean the San Siro's getting knocked down, isn't it? I need to go to that one. And the other one I've always wanted to do, although I think Nigel Seeley would say don't go there, is to De Kuip in Rotterdam. There, the Feyenoord Stadium always looks a belter of an old ground. Maybe not the city, but the ground itself looks proper atmosphere. I'd love to see Feyenoord against Ajax at that ground. I think it would be really, really intense. Yeah, funny you mentioned Greek there. I was, on the leg. What sort of foods are you into? Are you more of a Sunday roast man or a Greek salad sort of person?
Well, I like to think of I'm quite an open-minded kind of guy, understand different cultures, but I'm very traditionalist, Steve, when it comes to my food. Love a traditional fry-up, love a Sunday roast, steak and chips. Can't really beat it, to be honest. I do appreciate really great cuisine cooked by those obviously who know what they're doing per se, but as I say, now I've got 2 kids. I don't really get to sample that much anymore. I don't get to go out as much. So, if I've got time to rustle up a Sunday roast at home, that's it's a good place to be. And you can't really beat a bit of tradition, I don't think.
I had a feeling that would be the answer. Absolutely, yeah. I had you down for that sort of cuisine eater. Final question: do you have any superstitions at all in life, especially in the betting field?
Yeah, this was a really interesting question. Actually, it really got me thinking. And I came to the no superstitions, but I do think you make your own luck, and I think that's especially relevant in the world of betting and the world of trying to call things and predict things, because I think you have to be a decent human being. I do think you have to take responsibility for your actions. It's one of my key life lessons, I think, and keeping good karma on side might sound a little bit fluffy, mightn't it? But it's led me pretty well in life so far. I think got quite a lot of luck in my career and with the family that I've got and things. So I'm very sort of grateful for that. But I think by being a good person and doing the right things and taking responsibility for your actions does actually play a part in terms of the results you can get in betting, because you need to get a little bit of luck on the way when you're playing in such a fine margin sport like football. And I just do think by being a good person and taking responsibility for your actions does help just improve that little bit of karma. And that sounds very fluffy, Steve, doesn't it? But I do think that's an important way to go about it, because you need everything on your side in this world in terms of betting. You say the fine margins can be so killer sometimes. So that's the way I sort of approach my life in a way, and just trying to get as much luck as I can really on my side, because luck can take you some pretty special places.
Yeah, you certainly need to keep the betting gods on side. For me, I mentioned before on some other shows that I just cannot wear anything red. I mean, this kind of comes from maybe me being a Leeds fan. But if you ever see me wearing anything red, then something strange is going on, Lewis. Let's just say that. But I'm more associated with the colour blue and greens. I'm really into that sort of thing.
Wow, I didn't know that, Steve. I didn't know you were so superstitious. Yeah. There we go.
I'm not. No, it's not like it's just sort of a mental thing. It's not
okay.
The be all end all. It's not.
I think anything to help with confidence. Anything to help with the confidence. If that's something which is in your brain and you can't seem to rid it, and it's affecting your decision making, then of course I think that's just, if it helps 0.5%, then why not throw it into the mix?
It's such a mental game, as we know. But anyway, this is the Steve Wyss's betting zoo. So there's going to be some pet picks again, and I brought a new weapon out of my animal stable this week. A new bird. This is a bird. This is a collared dove who actually lives inside. It was rescued last year. My wife is rescues a lot of birds, and this is a collared dove called Pop Tart, and she's going to do a prediction for this weekend's big match in the NFL, Sunday Night Football, Detroit Lions at Kansas City Chiefs. So take away the video and see which team she's going to pick. And a good look around before deciding here. And it's the Chiefs. She goes for the Chiefs. Finally goes for the Kansas City Chiefs to beat the Detroit Lions. Took me about half an hour to do that video, by the way. It's not easy working with birds. But anyway, we're going to do your pet video now. Introduce me your pet dog and tell me about him or her.
Yeah, this is Buddy, 7 years old now. He was an absolute nightmare as a puppy, and I was thought, why the hell have we got this dog? But he's turned into a big part of the family, and he's we'll see what he's predicting and his punting skills are like here.
Yeah, we're doing the next Monday night football game in the Premier League, and it's Brentford at West Ham. You're actually going to be on the live show that day, so I might be interested if you're going to bet against your own animal when you come on the show. But let's see what Buddy is predicting for West Ham against Brentford.
3 possible outcomes. 1 predicting.
Lovely coat, by the way.
Go on in, bud. What's this over here? What's this?
I can't actually see the screen, guys, so I can't see what I'm talking over.
Well, I'll tell you what, he wanted nothing to do with West Ham. I'll say that.
He's a smart
Brentford
dog.
in the end. A little bit of the draw, so double chance possibly, but definitely not West Ham. Definitely not West Ham. So
maybe Buddy will be appearing on that live show rather than me. We'll see.
We shall wait and see. But hey, Lewis, thanks so much for putting that video together. As we know, it's not easy working with animals, is it?
No.
But really enjoyed that. Really great show. Loads of great angles on it. Please do put down in the comments any questions as well to me and Lewis. Let us know what you thought of the episode. But it was an absolute pleasure, Lewis, to have you on the show. Thanks so much.
No, thanks, Steve. It was great to open my brain up. I say it was quite therapeutic, really, going through, looking back a little bit and looking at strategies and things. So yeah, I would encourage anyone to do the same. Write some notes down, have a little play with what works, what doesn't, and you'll learn a lot. So yeah, can only encourage everyone to do the same.
There will be more episodes of Steve Wyss's Betting Zoo coming very soon. But until then, take care and see you next time. Goodbye.